All right, lately home buyers have been in quite a pickle because this is, by and large, throughout the nation, a seller's market when it comes to residential real estate. We are even aware of instances where folk have bid up houses by hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay, in some cases. So you've got that going on. You've got folk out there waiving the appraisal contingencies and just saying, hey, I want the house no matter what. There's a real buying frenzy going on, and that buying frenzy has fueled this seller's market. That may be moderating just a bit because the 30-year mortgage rate has topped 3% for the first time since July 2020. That's not bad news, actually. You know, it is going to cost a little bit more for folk to go out and finance a home. However, these rates are still historically low. All right, let's take a look at the 30-year fixed mortgage rate chart from Macro Trends. Back in the 80s, it would cost you about 18%. And that's if you were doing well to get a mortgage, to get a 30-year mortgage. As we move forward, like we just said, the rate is over 3% now, 3.2%. It's not showing it. It'll only show February on here. It has ticked up, but we're still at historical lows. So it's still a good time to get a good deal if you're financing a house, a good deal on the financing, relatively speaking. We've talked about the 10-year Treasury note here before. Mortgage rates tend to move in the same direction as the yield on the 10-year Treasury, which has been rising. Treasury yields rise when investors feel confident enough in the economy to forego safe haven assets such as bonds for riskier ones, including stocks. Last week, the yield hit its highest level in a year. Now, of course, what will end up happening here is they're saying that higher mortgage rates could discourage some would-be buyers from trying to purchase in the first place. And I suppose that is possible. But what's more likely to happen, and they do mention it here, is this is likely to result in folks saying, you know what, I'm going to purchase a home that's less expensive. So they'll still be able to get into a home, but they'll have to adjust for the rise in interest rates and go for a home that's less expensive. And eventually, if that happens enough, then it'll take some of the wind out of the seller's market, and you'll see some of these prices moderate, and you'll also stop seeing folk bidding up properties, so heavily. The other thing you're going to see is a decrease in the amount of refinances. With the 30-year rate of 2.75%, about 18 million U.S. homeowners could reduce their monthly payments through a refinance. According to mortgage data firm Black Knight, when the rate rises to 3.25%, the pool of eligible homeowners shrinks to about 11 million. So we're at 3.02% now. Got a little ways to go before we get quite a sizable amount of people who are, no longer going to see a benefit from that 3.25% rate. Why? Because they've already got a rate lower than that. So that wouldn't buy them anything. Here's one last piece I want to mention. Even before the recent climb in rates, surging U.S. home prices had begun to outweigh the savings offered by historically low borrowing rates. The typical monthly mortgage payment in the fourth quarter rose to $1,040 from $1,020 a year earlier, even as mortgage rates declined, according to the National Association of Realtors. Now, it's important to remember, because you might see that figure and say typical monthly mortgage payment of $1,040. Depending on where you are in the country, you might be like, wow, that is extremely low. Or you may be like, that's pretty high. But again, real estate really is not a national market. It is not it's really not a local market either. It's not a state, local, or even a zip code market. Real estate, residential, is a hyper local market. And it's a hyper local market because you can go on one block and the houses be worth, one price. And then you can go 2 blocks over and have a whole different scenario taking place in terms of value. And that value could be predicated on the style of the house, the different amenities in the house, its proximity to conveniences like transportation or shopping, whether it's producing something like farm or timberland. So there are a whole lot of variables in there. Location, location, location is the major one when we talk about real estate. So when you see these national averages, just keep that in mind. Real estate is a hyper local market. So if you're in the market for a home, and if you're in the market for a refinance right now, look, the rates are still historically low, but they do seem to be ticking up.